Alright, welcome to a video where we're going to talk about relationships. Angle relationships, not that stuff that... No, come on guys. Angle relationships, we got to keep it math here, yo. So the only feelings we're going to talk about is our math feelings, which hopefully are high. So let's go. So, this is going to be just straight up definitions, and then you're going to have to use those definitions in the video. From the video to do the practice problems. This is hopefully going to give you a challenge, be a little frustrating, and it'll be a little bit of fun, because we hate it for it to be super easy. So our first definition is complementary angles. So if angles are complementary, they're not just saying nice things to each other. It means that they sum to 90 degrees. So they add up to equal 90 degrees. These angles do not have to be adjacent to each other. And adjacent meaning beside. So here we can put beside, just in case you forget what adjacent means. I'm going to use the word adjacent because it's the proper term, and I want you to do that too. But if we get stuck, we can use the word beside, and then we'll remember that forever and ever after. So I have two examples here of complementary angles. So we have example 1 here. We have two angles that are adjacent, and if you look and you add together 48 plus 42, you'll get 90. So these are complementary angles because they sum to be 90. This group here is also complementary. They're not adjacent, they're just two angles hanging out on their own, but they are complementary because 30 plus 60 is 90 degrees. So complementary, sum to be 90. Do not have to be adjacent. Supplementary. They sum to 180 degrees, and they also do not have to be adjacent. So if they're just supplementary, they don't have to be adjacent. But they do always add up to 180 degrees. So here, we have a pair of angles that are adjacent, that's fine, and they add to be 180. So 20 degrees plus 160 degrees is 180 degrees. And then we have the second pair over here. They're also like our complementary pair, just hanging out on their own, doing their own thing, but they do sum to be 180, so they are supplementary to each other. Alright, the next is vertical angles, and vertical angles are congruent, and they are across from each other. They are not adjacent, they are vertical. Vertical means across. So if we look here at example 1, 70 degrees and 70 degrees. These angles are vertical because they're across. That means you basically go through the midpoint. If you can draw a straight line through the midpoint, then you have vertical angles. Same thing with our 110 to 110. You'll also notice that these two are supplementary as well. But that's a neat little thing that I hope you stick in your back pocket and use that later. You'll also notice in the second one that where I have two triangles, that if we draw a straight line through this vertices of our triangle, we see that they're also vertical. So we have a pair of vertical angles there, they're across from each other, therefore they are congruent. And our final pair here is our linear pair. So a linear pair are supplementary, which means they add to 180, and they must be adjacent. They must be adjacent. So linear pairs, if you look at that, linear, the word line is in it, and then pair. So this is a pair of angles that make a line. So we have a pair of angles that make a line, because we know lines sum to be 180 degrees. So we have two examples here. This one, 50 plus 130 is 180, and you see they do create a line. They are adjacent, so linear pair. And then we have this one here, same idea. 65 and 115 make 180. And they make this line here, even though it is more of a ray, we could imagine that this does go on forever in the other direction if we wanted to. So that's the video. After you feel like you've got this video down, you can go ahead and work on some of the practice problems.